APSIS, the first book in the Adventures of the Empyrean Guard series by E.W. Barnes. Narrated by the author. Prologue, Coude. Halfway to safety, Nizhoni's heads-up display flashed the words, "The Step." They had reached where the science station dropped a level to accommodate the topography of the planet. Coude was a brown and barren rock in orbit of a red giant star, and when the station was operational, grav lifts transported staff from one level to the other. But the researchers were long gone, and with no power to run the lifts, the only way off the step and out of the abandoned station were partially destroyed emergency stairs, now filled with teetering wreckage. "Scans show clear," Jonas muttered as they approached the stairs. "No enemy troops." What the scans did not show was how creepy the narrow, shadowy space was. Dark mountains of unsteady debris loomed over them, leaving only a narrow path. Nizhoni steeled herself. This was the only route to the skimmers on the west side of the station, the only way to escape and get off the planet before inner coalition troops discovered them. Her heads-up display tracked another of their team, Fulgar, on a converging course with the ICs guarding the west airlock. His warm yellow blip slowed as he neared the still unmoving red ones of the enemy. With any luck, Fulgar would disable the ICs before they knew what happened, and by the time they woke up, Nizhoni and her team would be long gone. Jonas entered the stairwell first. Nizhoni watched the path of his heat signature descending slowly as he found stable footing, working on navigating the rubble without starting an avalanche. Leader Ira, then Nizhoni, followed him, both carefully stepping only where he had stepped, Nizhoni holding her breath with each move. They successfully reached a landing and were making the turn to the next flight of stairs when she sensed a vibration. "You feel that?" she whispered, finding a handhold on the jagged remains of a railing. "Gravity wave," Ira murmured. "How long do we have?" "Moments." "We have to get off these stairs," Jonas hissed. Boring brown Coude had been of interest only to the scientists there to study the effects of gravity surges from the star, which regularly shoved the surface of the planet upwards or suddenly pulled the ground open into rifts and crevasses. Unfortunately, the decaying station could no longer safely withstand the seismic stresses, hence the teetering debris. Nizhoni prayed the coming wave would not heave them through the roof or plunge them to the bottom of the stairwell to be buried in rubble. She let go of the railing. Her display flashed green and dissolved into static. The stairwell flooded with light. Armed figures in inner coalition uniforms appeared behind her and in front of Jonas. They were surrounded and outnumbered. "Hands where we can see them," a woman's voice commanded. "Who are they?" asked a man next to the woman. They look like outer forces," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Outer forces on this side of the belligerents would be an act of war," a man behind Nizhoni said. "They must be smugglers, using stolen outer forces equipment." "No." The woman moved forward, eyes wide, peering at Jonas. Her gaze dropped to the gold sigil on the collar of his jumpsuit, the 7-rayed star that identified their unit. "They really are outer forces. They're the Empyrean Guard." The other man behind Nizhoni took a step back, and the man next to him laughed. "We captured the Empyrean Guard, the most elite insertion unit in the OF. They'll give us medals." "How did you sneak up on us?" Ira asked, with a glance over her shoulder at Nizhoni. "False telemetry," the laughing man said. "Made you think we were staying in one place." "Secure them," the woman barked to get him to shut up. "We'll take them to High Command and get those medals. Cooperate, and no one gets hurt," she said to Ira. For a moment, Nizhoni's display cleared. She saw a yellow blip closing in, and then static. Ira nodded to Jonas, and they set their weapons on the stairs. Nizhoni placed hers in front of the men behind her, moving slowly, trying to get the timing perfect. The vibrations increased, and she could not stop the corners of her mouth from tugging upward. The laughing man's eyes narrowed. "What are you smiling about?" He frowned at his feet, and then the gravity wave hit. The stairs beneath them rolled and lurched. Nizhoni fell to her knees. She reached into a hidden pocket in her conformable composite jumpsuit and drew out the temporal suspension weapon she had brought with her from the past. One of the ICs shouted. His hand reached for her, grabbing at her jumpsuit, pulling hard. She activated it. Time slowed. Dusts and chunks of debris hung in the air. She fell back a millimeter at a time. "Get up," a voice urged. "We need to move." Nizhoni groaned. Something sharp jabbed into her back. She sat up. There were bodies all around her. "The ICs," Ira said to Fulgar as he helped her up. "What happened?" "Dunno," Fulgar shrugged. "When we realized they were projecting false telemetry, we tracked them and found you all frozen." Nizhoni looked at the temporal suspension weapon, still in her hand. "It was this," she said. "I used it to freeze time." Fulgar nodded to the unconscious IC troops. "They won't be out for long." Nizhoni did not breathe freely again until she saw the gleam of their sleek and fast skimmers waiting for them outside the western airlock. She allowed herself to relax as she settled into the co-pilot seat across from Merlina, her Corvidae teammate. Merlina prepared the ship for departure. "Let us be gone from this desiccated rock," she croaked cheerily. "What about the ICs?" Nizhoni asked. "Zadok and I sabotaged their spacecraft while we waited for you." Merlina's obsidian feathers shivered with mirth. "They won't catch us." "Will they be okay?" "Their people will find them." "I hope they won't have to wait long," Nizhoni chuckled. "The gravity waves can be nasty." Merlina snapped her beak, a sign of irritation. "Not long. They got a message off." A ball of ice formed in Nizhoni's stomach. What kind of message? "They requested transportation for OF prisoners, for members of the Empyrean Guard." She cocked an onyx eye at Nizhoni. "How did they know?" "They saw Jonas's sigil," Nizhoni replied, swallowing against a sudden uneasy feeling. "Without proof, they can make no complaint," Merlina said confidently as the skimmer climbed away from the dull surface of Coude. "Yeah," Nizhoni murmured. If they were lucky, the inner coalition would assume the interlopers were smugglers in stolen uniforms, and the outer union could deny everything. No one would believe that an assertion unit had been there. Out of habit, her hand brushed the collar of her iron-gray jumpsuit, but her fingers did not find the cool metal of the gold star that came with her membership in the Empyrean Guard. Her sigil was missing. Oh no!